Good afternoon to you. 306 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, 3:30 from the Daily Mail, Charlie Spiering joins us. He knows all about Kamala Harris's history. He'll talk to us about that as she tries to become the next president of the United States. Susan Crabtree joins us at 4 o'clock. The reporter who's broken so much news on the Secret Service. And it turns out it's all been right. Susan will give us the update on that. And then Sean Davis is here at 5 o'clock from the Federalist. He's got a lot of thoughts on all of the events of the last 48 hours. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. So much for Sleepy Sundays. Only Joe got to sleep on Sunday. The rest of us had to turn to our various news stations and channels, and certainly to WMAL, to find out what the hell is going on in the world, as Joe Biden's Twitter account announces that he is breaking up with us via text. What kind of breakup is this? They just released a letter with Joe Biden's signature affixed to it, declaring that he is no longer running for president. Meanwhile, nobody's heard from Joe in real life since last week. Nobody has seen him. Nothing. We've got no proof of life whatsoever. Nothing. We have no idea what he's up to. We have no idea if he even knows that he's out of this race now. They haven't given us anything. The closest thing they've given us to an assessment of what he's up to is that the White House doctor just put out, Kevin O'Connor just put out a statement a short while ago claiming that Joe Biden's COVID has all but disappeared, that his symptoms are now almost fully resolved. Okay. I'll quote it to you. It's not that long of a piece of a letter. It's from Kevin O'Connor, physician to the president. President Biden completed his 10th dose of Paxlovid this morning. His symptoms have about resolved completely. His pulse, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and temperature remain absolutely normal. His oxygen saturation continues to be excellent on room air. His lungs remain clear. The president continues to perform all of his presidential duties. I will continue to keep your office updated with any changes in his condition or treatment plan. This letter addressed to Corinne, the assistant to the president and the White House press secretary. I can't wait for the next Corinne press conference, I have to say. I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be an exciting moment. But it's not going to happen until they cart Joe back to, in whatever form, whatever state he's in, back to Washington, D.C. He's got to be in the White House for Corinne to speak to us there. But we'll see. According to the White House doctor, he's as fit as a fiddle. He's doing great. We just can't see him. What? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You have a girlfriend who lives in Canada? And that's her picture? Yeah, that's her picture. Can I meet her? No, you can't meet her. She lives really far away, and she's so busy modeling and doing amazing things. You'll never be able to meet her. Where's Joe? Where's Joe at? They're not telling us. They claim he's in Delaware, but who knows at this point. So, in fact, even President Trump has been posting to Truth Social all sorts of things about everything that's transpired here in the last 24 hours. Amazing. Trump's reaction to Joe Biden dropping out yesterday. Crooked Joe Biden is the worst president by far in the history of our nation. He's done everything possible to destroy our country, from our southern border to energy dominance, national security, international standing, and so much more. He was annihilated in an earth-shattering debate, and now the corrupt and radical Democrats are throwing him overboard. He was not fit to serve from the very beginning, but the people around him lied to America about his complete and total mental, physical, that is, and cognitive demise. Whoever the left puts up now will just be more of the same. Make America great again. All caps. President Trump has not stopped posting to social media since yesterday's news. Here's one. Crooked Joe just got knocked out, so now I'll have to do it a fourth time. Does anybody really believe that Crooked Joe had COVID? No, he wanted to get out ever since June 27th, the night of the debate, where he was completely obliterated. That was the big moment in Joe Biden's demise. That was the point in time when Joe was revealed for what he is, an incompetent man who should have never been president. Joe Biden is not fit to serve. He is destroying our country. Further, my debate with Crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States, was slated to be broadcast on fake news ABC, the home of George Slopadopoulos, sometime in September. Now that Joe has, not surprisingly, quit the race, I think the debate with whomever the radical left Democrats choose should be held on Fox News rather than the very biased ABC. Thank you, ! DJT. And there's a lot more here, and a lot of Truth Social posts. He's got a lot to say on this subject. I'll just pick up from this morning. The Democrats pick a candidate, crooked Joe Biden. He loses the debate badly, then he panics and makes mistake after mistake. He's told he can't win and decides they will pick another candidate, probably Harris. They stole the race from Biden after he won it in the primaries. A first. These people are the real threat to democracy, Trump writes. And finally, he said this morning, it's a new day and Joe Biden doesn't remember quitting the race yesterday. He's demanding his campaign schedule and arranging talks with Presidents Xi of China and Putin of Russia concerning the possible start of World War III. Biden is, quote, sharp, decisive, energetic, angry, and ready to go, says Trump. Trump mocking his opponents for how all of this has gone down. But he is right about the fact that he beat Joe Biden in record time. Have you ever seen anything like this? Donald Trump just beat Joe Biden in the 2024 election over 3 months before Election Day. Trump's dominance in this race is so crystal clear at this moment that Biden quit this weekend. He quit. He threw in the towel. Now, well, was he compelled to? Well, yeah. Biden's plan was to stay in. He was going to stubbornly stay in. He's very bitter about all of this. But he was forced out. And the people who forced him out include all of the party elders. Barack Obama, clearly doing that. Kamala Harris, you know for a fact that she and the people around her have been leaking all of the dirty laundry from inside the White House to give you things you already knew from the outside of it, which is that Joe Biden is non compos mentis. He's not with it. He can't do the job. And so all of the leaks that have been pouring out of the Biden administration, whose interests do they serve? Or as they say in Latin, cui bono? Who is served by this? Oh, that's Kamala. Kamala is served by this. So, of course, her people have been involved in leaking all of this out. And Barack Obama wanted to force him out. Barack Obama, no friend to Joe, doesn't really talk to him ever, had one conversation with him since the debate. That's it. Trying to get Joe out of there. All of the party elders have been crystal clear, both in public and more so behind closed doors, but it keeps getting leaked out. Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi threatened Joe Biden, according to Politico this morning. Up until Joe actually quit yesterday, Pelosi was preparing to ramp up the pressure this week if Biden didn't exit. Per some great reporting by our Politico colleagues, Politico says of itself, senior Biden aides were bracing for Pelosi to go public this week and possibly even disclose Democratic polling clarifying Biden's dire political straits. Nancy made clear that they could do this the easy way or the hard way, said one Democrat familiar with private conversations who was granted anonymity to speak candidly. She gave them 3 weeks of the easy way. It was about to be the hard way. It was about to be the hard way. So Joe comes out yesterday, to the extent that he's involved in this at all, with a letter saying that he's no longer running for president. Now, this is not the tradition in American history. In fact, like in any other circumstance, there'd be a photo. I mean, right? We get situation room photos when we're killing bad guys overseas. We get to see everybody in the room. But you don't get video of it. It's, we're a classified conversation. But you get photos of it. You get to see what it looked like. Where's the photo of Joe signing the letter saying he's not running for re-election? Why isn't there a photographer in the room to capture this moment in history? Why wasn't there someone there? No photos? Not even an iPhone? Jill couldn't snap it for posterity? We can't see him signing this letter? Now, I'm not saying he didn't sign the letter. I'm not saying that. I sort of believe he did. I just want to know where the hell the photo is. Why didn't they put out a photo? Nothing? No address to the country? When LBJ announced that he wasn't running for re-election, in no small part because the American public was sick of the Vietnam War and holding him accountable for it, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, announced it at the end of a very long-winded speech about Vietnam, and he said, oh, by the way, I'm also not running for re-election. This is what it sounded like.
With America's future under challenge right here at home, with our hopes and the world's hopes for peace and the balance every day, I do not believe that I should devote an hour or a day of my time to any personal partisan causes or to any duties other than the awesome duties of this office. the presidency of your country. Accordingly, I shall not seek and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president. But let men everywhere know, however, that a strong and a confident and a vigilant America stands ready tonight to seek an honorable peace and stands ready tonight to defend an honored cause, whatever the price, whatever the burden, whatever the sacrifice that duty may require. Thank you for listening. Good night, and God bless all of you.
Yeah, there you go. LBJ in a painfully slow announcement that he was leaving. I'm not running for re-election. I'm done. And like Joe Biden, LBJ did so much damage to our great country. So much damage. Biden, of course, in his letter claimed that he's done great things, which is contrary to the opinion and reality of everyone who read that letter yesterday. And so now you have, think about it. Let's just stretch the lens out. So Trump defeats Joe Biden way before Election Day. He's out. Joe Biden was made the nominee by virtue of a rigged primary process. Yes, there were some Democrats across 14 million, they keep telling us. 14 million is the number who showed up for no reason whatsoever to vote in their primary process for something that was already selected for them. There's nobody else on the ballot. Dean Phillips, come on. They canceled the primary in Florida. They canceled it. They didn't want anybody to vote for fear that Dean Phillips would be getting a bunch of votes and it would look bad for Joe. So they rigged the whole process. They kept RFK out of it. Can't let RFK on the ballot. He can't run as a Democrat. So they rigged that part. So then Joe is supposed to be the nominee. They were going to rig the actual convention. They were going to hold it early. We don't know if they're still going to do that, by the way, but the plan was to hold it in early August, a virtual convention, and say Biden's the nominee. And then we go from there. And so now what has the left done? The left has staged a coup against their own rigging. They rigged the election. They're dissatisfied with how they rigged it, and now they're rigging it again. Let's re-rig the rigged election. Let's do that. And so they're trying to usher in Kamala, a product nobody wants. So if you're looking for any invitation whatsoever to meddle in the election again, it's Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, who is less popular than Biden in the swing states. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense whatsoever? If you're doing a free and fair election, why would you put forward such an awful, awful candidate to replace Joe? Someone who is worse than Joe in swing state polling. Here's MSNBC today admitting as much.
Steve, all along the polls were really neck and neck between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, although there had been some slippage for President Biden after that debate. How does Kamala Harris fare against the former president?
I mean, the short answer is not really any better. Take a look at this. This is the average of all the polls you're talking about there since the debate that tested Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. Trump 47%, Harris 46%. In this same set of polls, when it was Joe Biden, 47% for Trump and 45% for Biden. So the Democratic number on average goes up from 45 to 46. But I think it underscores for Democrats, they view this move as something that's going to improve their chances in the general election. That is based more on hope than it is on the numbers right now.
Yeah, more on hope than it is on the numbers. And again, as I pointed out, swing state polling in particular shows Kamala Harris is doing worse than Joe Biden. Worse than Joe Biden, a man who can't even appear in public. We haven't seen him. We don't know where he is. So he's being replaced. The Democrat coup to replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. It's Koupmala Harris. We're looking for President Koupmala. That's what's coming next, according to the Democrats. Hold on, 3:21 now. Hey, I've got updates for you on the Secret Service director's awful testimony today. Just disgraceful testimony today from the head of the Secret Service. We'll get to that coming up. I do have to say, among the many remainders we have from Joe Biden's shock announcement, which, by the way, so many of us have been predicting, Biden's not going to be the nominee. Well, it's come to fruition. He's not the nominee. How much did they get paid off? Like, if how much of this was coercion and how much of this was extortion? To what extent did the Bidens land a massive golden parachute? Where's Jill going next year? What absurdly high-paying job is she going to be in next year? What about Hunter? What is he up to? What about Frank Biden? What about Ashley Biden? What about all these Bidens? What are they getting out of this deal? They're stepping away. Here's how Frank talks about his brother. He just told CBS that his brother doesn't have much time left, and he's going to spend it with him.
Here's what he told us. He said, "I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine hero. Country over self. It sounds corny in our cynical political environment, but he nor I are cynical. The goal remains the same: defeat Trump and continue the work that Joe has done. My hope is that our party rallies around this heroic act." We asked him whether he feels that his brother's overall health and vitality played a major role in this decision, and he says, in my humble opinion, absolutely. So a member of the president's family now confirming that the president's health was indeed a major factor in this decision, and calling his brother a hero for making the decision to pass the torch to Kamala Harris.
Yeah, cha-ching. Frank Biden, very happy with the outcome of to all of this. Let me take Rick in Manassas, line 7. Rick, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, great show as usual.
Thank you, sir.
I told your call screener, who's great also, by the way.
The great call.
I think one thing that has been mentioned is how Trump masterfully corrected any mistakes he made in 2020. He's done a phenomenal job of organization, juxtaposed against Biden's complete incompetence, going down to the people he's put in various jobs under advice from various people. And you just mentioned Hunter. I'll bet $1 to anybody on the planet, and I'll deliver it in person if Kamala does not pardon Hunter Biden. I think that's part of the payoff.
I do too, but I will say that I think now they measure that the political consequences, to the extent that they would have existed in the first place, are gone. So if Joe survives beyond Election Day, that pardon probably comes right after November 8th. I have a sneaking suspicion. Joe will do it himself. It'll be a little gift for the family before he hits the exit. Thank you very much, Rick. I appreciate the call. Excellent insights. Yeah, you're right. Trump is very disciplined this cycle. He's getting a lot of good advice. Trump, despite what you hear in the press, represents order. Biden and Koupmala represent chaos. Once again. Coming up, Charlie Spiering weighs in. He's written a book on Kamala Harris. We'll talk to him about it. Well, good afternoon. It's 3:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Susan Crabtree is with us from Real Clear Politics, an excellent reporter. She was in the room today as the Secret Service director just gave awful answer after awful answer. Oh, sorry, I can't tell you why the president was almost assassinated. Not yet, anyway. We'll talk to Susan Crabtree about that. And Sean Davis from The Federalist is here at 5 o'clock. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Kamala Harris is a nightmare. She's a nightmare for the people who work under her. Now just imagine if she was in charge of the whole damn country. For more on this subject, I want to bring in the guy who wrote the book on it. Charlie Spiering is here. He's a Washington, D.C.-based political reporter for the Daily Mail and the author of Amateur Hour, Kamala Harris in the White House. Charlie, great to have you back with us.
Thanks, Vince. Thanks for having me back.
Okay, so we're talking about Vice President Harris right now, and there's a lot of movement on the left to make her the nominee as quickly as they possibly can. What should voters know about Kamala Harris?
Well, this fits in right with her ability to somehow suddenly rise to the top of the pool when it comes to an empty slot and sort of demand a seat at the table and just be given it by the Democratic Party. It's an uncanny ability that she's shown throughout her political career. Look, when Barbara Boxer retired from the Senate, look who was there to fill her spot. Kamala Harris moved quickly and hard to make sure that she got the position. When it came time to run for president, she was among the first to be out with all the support from donors and supporters and the top figures in the party. Even though she squandered that opportunity, And then look, when it came time for Biden to pick a vice president, to pick a running mate, Kamala Harris was right there, savaging her opponents and putting herself on a pedestal, and it ultimately resulted in her being put in this position today.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me kind of like she's the ultimate case of fake it till you make it. She's just keeps on failing upwards. What is her legacy? What is the sign that she's achieved something in her past that would dictate that she's a suitable president of the United States? Normally with politicians, you would look back and say, okay, what were their legislative achievements? What state did they lead? Were they a chief executive? Or if you're a business guy like a Donald Trump, what kind of organizations has he built? What evidence is there that he would be a success as a leader in a different environment? What do we know about Kamala Harris's past?
Vince, that's such a good question, because Democrats are wondering that right now. And the only thing you hear in all of their statements of praise and lavishing all the glory upon Kamala Harris and why she's so deserving of the position, the only thing that really stands out is her undefeated proposition for returning Roe v. Wade and codifying it into law. She's 100% focused on the abortion issue, and that'll be like a major focus if she runs a campaign. When she runs her campaign, right? It's looking all assured that she will be the nominee.
Yeah.
And that'll be her first priority as president, in enacting abortion rights on a national level.
Yeah, there's a long history of primitive cultures using human sacrifice in order to achieve outcomes. I'm not sure that one's going to work here at all. So the other piece is that Kamala Harris, I keep hearing is, her history. She was a prosecutor. She worked as a prosecuting attorney for the government in California. The idea is that she's the prosecutor and Trump is the convict. Is she really going to run a campaign based on that message? And how successful do you anticipate that will be?
Yeah, it's very remarkable to see her reboot this old notion that she's the skilled prosecutor who's the only one that can take it to Donald Trump and hold him accountable to justice. This was a huge focus of her 2020 campaign when she ran for the Democratic nomination against Joe Biden and the rest of them. She argued that she was the only one skilled enough to prosecute the case against Donald Trump. But wait, she forgot to actually appeal to voters, have conversations with them, demonstrate an authenticity and a command of the issues. It's really short-sighted for her to try to reboot this image as it failed her so badly in the 2020 election.
On that issue, conversations with voters, how intimidated is Kamala Harris by having English language conversations with humans?
Yeah, we'll have to watch closely for her next campaign event. Lo and behold, on Friday she went out for ice cream. That was kind of her first public event in a long time that seemed to be, even though it was very closely guarded and scripted, it was kind of the only recent sort of normal behavior demonstrated by the vice president, who has largely been very, very afraid, very risk averse to go out in public and speak unscripted.
There's a report in Axios today that in April of 2022, now just a little over 2 years ago, Kamala Harris was the guest for a dinner with a D.C. news mogul called David Bradley. And it was a salon-style event that Bradley hosts with a number of reporters and newsmakers, Axios says. Harris's anxiety about the dinner was such that her staff held a mock dinner beforehand with staffers playing participants. According to two people familiar with the event, Harris aides even considered including wine in the mock prep so Harris could practice with a glass or two. They ultimately decided against that. But why does Kamala Harris or any human being need to practice going to dinner and having conversations?
Yeah, Vince, that's just a stunning report and one more example of just how risk-averse she is. She was not comfortable when she came to D.C. and found herself instantly, Democrats in D.C. found her wanting, and they were not impressed with what they saw, even though they supported her fully as to be Joe Biden's running mate. Joe Biden must be doing really bad if all the Democrats are now surrounding Kamala Harris with all of their support. With only 100 days left until the election, it's very clear they're just trying to act to stop the bleeding at this point.
Well, the other piece here is that Kamala Harris has left a long trail of destruction behind her when it comes to the people who've worked for her. Every so often, it's a perennial story. We get another report on burnout among staffers who work for her, the fact that Kamala Harris is too lazy to read her own prep. People will do the work of actually preparing briefings for her. She will refuse to read those briefings. Then she'll go into meetings, fall on her face, and then blame her own staff for her failures after she failed to do the homework. How much will this dog her, if at all, Charlie Spiering, having so many people who really had a lot of distaste for having worked for her?
Yeah, so true. I don't imagine, Vince, that we're going to see a flock of former staffers rushing back into the office to beg Kamala Harris for their job back. I don't really see that as happening, but we'll have to see. And then certainly when she's dealing with her staffers, just exactly what you described, belittling staff, ripping them apart, criticizing them behind the scenes, and all in favor of, the results are not really that good either. It's understandable when you have a hard boss, but it's that hard boss somehow succeeds despite their tactics of bullying staff.
Yeah. Sometimes
people will put up with it, but I think so many of her staffers saw her as not going anywhere, seeing how she was deeply unpopular among the people and certainly not popular with the DC elite. I think a lot of them just got out of there while they still could, viewing her office as a path to nowhere.
How much will the fact that she has been the, quote, border czar for Biden play into the election should she become the nominee?
Oh, that'll be huge. I think Republican campaign chief Chris LaCivita told reporters during the convention that the border czar issue would be the number one issue against Kamala Harris. So I really think that they're already sending out information about her failure on this issue. Look, Kamala's tried to do that assignment since she got it. She claimed she was only in charge of root causes. Really tried to wriggle out of it, but I think some Republicans have successfully branded her on that issue. Recall back in 2022, she said the border is secure. That prompted the governor of Texas to send busloads of migrants to her house, just to remind her how unsecure the border was.
Right, and I remember her saying I believe it was to Lester Holt. He pointed out she had never been to the border, and then she said, "And I haven't been to Europe," as if that was some sort of witty rejoinder. In fact, it just proved how awkward she is in, again, having human conversations.
Right, and remember when she went to Guatemala, she told migrants, "Do not come. If you come, you will be turned away." Wow, that hasn't happened. In fact, they've just thrown down the welcome mat for migrants looking to cross the border illegally.
All right. Well, as always, appreciate your time and your wisdom. Charlie Spiering with the Daily Mail, the author of Amateur Hour, Kamala Harris in the White House. A part 2 may be on the way. Should somehow Kamala prevail. Thank you, Charlie. Good to talk to you today.
You bet, Vince. Anytime.
That's Charlie Spiering with the great Daily Mail. Excellent website. News site. The reactions to Kamala Harris are interesting, amusing, terrifying. Tulsi Gabbard, do you recall her beatdown of Kamala Harris in 2020 on that Democrat primary debate stage? I guess this would have been 2019 when they were on stage together, but they were running in the 2020 presidential election. Tulsi Gabbard absolutely wiping the floor with Kamala Harris and her time as a prosecutor in California. And she has released an updated thought on Kamala Harris as the presidential nominee for the Democrats in 2024. Here's what Tulsi Gabbard had to say. She was in Rome, but she took a break to record this video.
I just saw the news flash like everybody else. President Biden's no longer running for re-election, and he's endorsed Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee for president and commander-in-chief. I'm going to sound the same warning now that I have been for years, going all the way back to 2020 when both Kamala and I were running for president on the Democratic ticket. She is unfit and unqualified to be our president and commander-in-chief and would be incredibly dangerous in that position. The prospect of Kamala Harris making decisions about war and peace and where to send my brothers and sisters in uniform into harm's way is not only terrifying to us, it should be terrifying to every American, knowing that we would all pay the price for her dangerous actions and dangerous decisions.
Yeah, thinking about lives being on the line. Do you really want Kamala Harris in charge of troop movements? That's a core question if you assess someone to become president of the United States. That's one of the most critical questions. Would you entrust the lives of our troops to Kamala Harris? And the answer to that, to thinking people everywhere, should be a resounding no. Kamala Harris? I don't trust her with a sentence. Why would I trust her with someone's life? So here she is. The Democrats, for the most part, seem to be heading in her direction to rally behind her. Not everybody. Nancy Pelosi joined the crew today that was endorsing Kamala, but we await Chuck Schumer, right? I think at this hour we still await Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. I love how the left pretends Hakeem Jeffries has any power. It's all Nancy Pelosi, of course, still in the House. And Barack Obama, who, what's up there? Is his assessment that Kamala Harris is actually a losing bet and maybe they should go with someone else? He indicated that he's looking forward to the process of the Democrats picking their new nominee. He didn't mention Kamala. He didn't mention her at all. Is he trying to be the elder statesman? I can't get involved. I'm not allowed to have any interests here. I'm too important to have an interest here. Is the idea that they're going to pretend like this is a democratic process? Oh, yeah, no, we're letting all the, well, you're not letting the voters decide, so I guess you're letting the representatives, the delegates, decide? Or we're just going to let the delegates decide who the nominee is. When the game is already rigged, they're just going to pick Kamala, but they're going to pretend like it was somehow an open process. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But Kamala Harris is out there already excited. We have audio of Kamala today, don't we? Where's my audio of Kamala Harris today? She was speaking to a group of NCAA athletes today. Here she is. At the White House. She said, Joe Biden really wanted to be here today, but he's sick.
Our president, Joe Biden, wanted to be here today. He is feeling much better and recovering fast.
Prove it.
And he looks forward to getting back on the road. And I wanted to say a few words about our president. Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. Oh. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap.
Or boo. All right, Jeb Bush. Please clap. Please, for the love of God, clap. Please clap. Let's go to Kenny, who's calling in from Sterling now, line 4. Kenny, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Colonnade Show.
Hey, Vince. How are you doing? First-time caller on this.
Thanks, brother.
I love your show. Been listening to it for many, many, many years. My problem, I went to the Trump campaign organization yesterday, and one of my problems with conservatives in general is this tone policing we still do to ourselves. It's sickening. It's that holier-than-thou attitude we have.
Well, give me an example.
Impeach Biden. Okay. I said something about that we need to be able to be direct with people, and like Kamala. I don't call her Kamala. I call her the hyena. Okay?
Yeah.
Because it's perfect name. Cackle. It's very Trumpian. It's exact way Trumpian people should talk. I don't use her pronouns. I say the hyena, and if I want to say her, I say the hyena. If I want to say she, I say the hyena. When only I'm referring to the hyena. And I was explaining how the hyena is not going to be a good fit, and if we can get them properly to understand, and it's a very Trumpian move to get that nickname out until he picks his own.
He's got Laughin' Kamala right now. His nickname right now is Laughin' Kamala, which is yours is a pithier way of saying the same thing.
Right, and you referred to her many times as she was not acting human, and I was laughing my butt off because of what you said. Because I was sitting there thinking the hyena when you said that. So you see why I'm saying it works perfectly. It's. I'm not saying I'm better than Trump, but I'm saying the hyena is a very effective for the cackling.
Right. I love the repetition. I love what you're attempting here, Kenny. You're trying to force feed this and make it work, and I got it. I totally get it. But
because in 7-Eleven, I did that. I had a guy, he kept saying the other name other than the hyena, and he would talk about what the hyena was doing, and then he would talk about what he felt about the hyena, and I was like, dude, you need to stop using those other words, because why have three different words when you can have one simple label, the hyena, and it works.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay attention for this. If I start seeing this catching fire, I'm going to remember it was Kenny and Sterling who got this thing going, that he had the flint and tinder to start the hyena. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate it. And Kenny's point is very well taken in this sense. You've got to define these people. No more sitting around waiting define them rapidly. People have to understand what they're up against, what's actually going on. And being crystal clear about Kamala Harris and who she is, the hyena, and who she is essential if you'd like to see this country restored to its form.
To this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Oh, it was a fireworks today. I got more for you in just a moment. As the Secret Service director comes completely unprepared to Congress after that assassination attempt on Donald Trump. We'll talk to Susan Crabtree in just a moment.